You're live.
All right, welcome back, everybody online. Thank you for being with us. We are back from break. We are in the home stretch today, and our next speaker, every time I see her post something on Instagram, and if you're not following her on Instagram, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but immediately go follow Rebecca Schmoe, which is S-C-H-M-O-E. Do it right now. Stop what you're doing. Do it right now. Because honestly, I see her post and I'm like, strumming my fate with her fingers, right? Singing my life with her words. She has such wisdom and just encapsulates things in so few words. Where it would take me, 3 pages, she does it in 3 lines. So Rebecca Schmoe is a true grassroots and gun rights advocate, spokesmom for 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control, yes, and the Kansas State Director for the DC Project. She believes that together, individual liberty and personal responsibility build the foundation of our inherent rights, and that when coupled with education will do more for safety and freedom than any legislation our elected representatives can offer. Amen. Can I get an amen? Amen. All right, Rebecca Schmoe.
Good afternoon, everybody. I absolutely love the fact that I was invited to come today because, not because I have some amazing wisdom to impart to you guys, but because I get to come learn from the cool kids. I have been invited to the cool kids table and I get all of this amazing information, which is why we're all here today. My topic is finding your unique voice. Now, I was never, Amanda Suffolcool this morning said something about being shy. I was not that kid. I think most of us in this room were not that kid. So what we're doing today when we're looking for a unique voice is we're going to actually talk about what makes us different and how that makes us the same. So to begin with, I'm going to do a little bit of an interactive. I'm going to give you a phrase, and I want you to think about as many things as you can think about that phrase, and then I'm going to ask for people to volunteer a couple of the things, 1 or 2 of the things that they thought about. The phrase is, Grandma's house.
Over the river and through the woods.
Nice. Cookies, over the river through the woods. Hugs. Shopping. Anybody else?
Garden. Robin Hood, Little Red Riding Hood.
Little Red Riding Hood. What was yours?
Garden.
Garden. All right, so when we talk about something like Grandma's house, we all know that biologically, due to genetics, how that whole thing works, every single one of us has a grandma. That grandma, more than likely, has a house. Some of us are grandmas. And so we now have Grandma's house. Just like we all have a grandma and we all have our own idea of what comes to mind, we all have our own memories, we all have our own experiences when the term Grandma's house is used, we all have the Second Amendment. That's what we have in common. The thing about our personal experiences is that even when we have something in common, like Grandma's house or the Second Amendment, we have completely different experiences with that. Some of us with Second Amendment, it was kind of built in. my family, my dad's a hunter, so it was built in. There were plenty of opportunities for me to be around firearms and be around the culture of hunting whenever I was growing up. Other people never had a gun in their home. They were brought up to be scared of them. They have recently come into the Second Amendment conversation. We don't have the same experiences. We have to honor and respect the fact that someone hears a phrase or a term and they don't have the same reaction to that we do. See, I went off topic and there we go. Skipping note cards. They don't have the same reaction that we do, but we can meet them where they are. We are, by and large, the experts. We are the people that are engaged all the time, 24 hours a day. We have conversations about this on podcasts. We write about it. We have conversations when we go pick kids up from school. We have conversations. We do research. People in our communities outside they come to us and ask us for information. And basically, if you're anything like me, somewhere along the line, someone has called you the gun. In some circles, I don't have any. In some circles, here, in other circles, in other circles, that's who we are in our community. But we all have we don't have the same experience, perspective, or memory. How I got started, I guess 9 years ago, right after there was a group of, we'll call them red that came out that said all moms were scared of guns. We needed to do away with them, and we needed to train our children to be scared of guns. And then there were moms, everyday normal moms, just sitting around watching the horror show play out on national media 24 hours a day, that understood that what they were actually saying was, we are scared, so we want you to give up your ability to protect your own children. It was one of those moments in your life that you're sitting there and everything just kind of clicks into place. There are people out there that don't want me to be able to protect my own children from the real life evil that they are showing us on TV. In real time, we are seeing evil played out, and there are those that are saying, we know this evil exists, we don't want you to be able to protect the people that you love from it. As I got started, I actually just found 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control on social media, and I just started being part of the conversation. And pretty soon I met the lady that ran the Kansas chapter, and I became friends with her, and she asked me to help run the Kansas chapter. Pretty soon I was speaking with the lady that founded the social media page, and she asked me to maybe sit on the board. So all of a sudden I was catapulted to the national level, having national conversations, not just state level conversations, and really starting to see what was happening at the national level. I've always been interested in politics. We talked about it around the dinner table, around the breakfast table, around every table in my family, but it really didn't hit home until it really concerned my children. So, once I started really getting involved with 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control, and I really started advocating for our right to protection and our right to train up our children in safety and knowledge, I started noticing that it's much easier to talk about what you're for than what you're against. Now, mind you, the name of the group is 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control. So it's more powerful and you reach a broader audience if you take people who are vehemently against something and you give them the opportunity and the tools to change that just enough that they can be for something. Because being for something gives you a much stronger drive. When you're against something, you eventually, you go at it and go at it and go at it, and eventually you hit a wall and you sit and wonder, why am I doing this? I am exhausted and I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to have this conversation anymore. I'm just tired. I want to check out and I want to go away. When someone chooses instead to look at what they're for and actually drive towards something productive, it changes the entire dynamic. So what we understand from the red-shirted Bloomberg moms, when they first came out, they made sure that everybody knew that they were against guns. And they were against our right to be prepared to protect. Pretty soon, they understood that that was a bad model. That they were coming up, because they were being confrontational, they were coming up against things that they had not expected. So then they switched their dynamic to this pseudo-safety. And so they want to talk about safety that's not really safety, and it's not really training children to be safe or training people on what to look for. But they understood that they had become kind of the Kraken of all Karens by being against. Unfortunately, in the Second Amendment community, we still have a very strong tendency to be against. We are against gun control legislation. We are against the government. We are against this group having guns or that group having guns. We are against this or that. We can't even agree that all guns are created equal. We can't get on the same page with just saying live and let live, because one person wants to carry a 9 and another person wants to carry a 45. If we can't get on the same page with that, then really we're kind of doing ourselves harm. We're, in fact, pun intended, shooting ourselves in the foot, because we are so focused on what we're against and not as thoughtful about what we're for, what we're driving towards, and why we're driving towards it. So each and every one of us in this room and watching at home, we need to really focus on what our mission statement is. And this is individual. Now, as Second Amendment community as a whole, our mission statement basically is something along the lines of shall not be infringed. That's why we're all here. As an individual, we need to find our why. And that needs to be specific. You need to choose your audience, and you need to be specific in what audience you are looking to speak to. Because these audiences are being specific about who they want to speak to. Just those of us in this room, we have our own followings. We have people who follow us. That's why we give shout-outs. That's why we do things like introducing our followers to somebody on a podcast. That's why we share other people's content, because we understand that we're not in this alone, and we need to branch out our audiences. Now, when we overlap our audiences, when we intermingle our audiences, that helps all of us. As far as the mission statement is concerned, your why has to be absolutely personal, and it has to be non-negotiable. My why happens to be my children. My audience has changed through the years. When I started being public about gun ownership and our inherent right to be able to protect ourselves, it was, I'm trying to reach other moms so that they know that they're not alone in their thinking. Now, my goal is to reach an audience that does not understand yet what their specific role is in our republic. People have never given any thought to their part in this design. So my mission statement, anytime I go to write anything, anytime I go on a podcast, anytime I do any kind of speaking before legislature or at an event, I remind myself that my mission statement is liberty for my children's children is purchased through education, not legislation, with my actions today. What I do today will impact my grandchildren. What I'm willing to let slide today, they won't know existed when they're my age. What I'm willing to fight for today, hopefully, they will have the opportunity to exercise and enjoy when they reach my age. Now, Rob taught us earlier about choosing audience, and I want to follow up with that with there are a few different styles of reach, and it really does echo what Rob was talking about earlier. We've got two basic forms that we can pick from. You've got the spotlight advocacy, where you cover a wide swath of topics, and with every single post that you do, every meme that you share, all of your content that you put out there, everything that you say that you think is behind closed doors, you are able to include or ostracize your audience within a moment. Because you might say something in one breath that an audience member is, yeah, that's amazing, and we need more of this, and this is who you should follow. In your next sentence, they might say, oh, well, I don't agree with that. So if I don't agree with that, then maybe I shouldn't follow this person. Maybe I just should. I think I'll take my my attention over to somebody else because I didn't like that one sentence that they said. And we're all human, and we all have very different ideas about what makes us who we are and what our life, our individual lives, should look like and how other people should respond to them. The other kind of advocacy is laser beam advocacy. That's when you are single topic. For a very long time, I had to be laser beam advocacy minded. I have now, after 9 years, kind of broadened my scope, and I've started talking about things a little bit more free. But when I started, no one cared about my opinions about anything else until they understood, and for several years understood, that this all boils down to your individual right to protect yourself and those you love. And once they were able to understand that for years, then I was able to have other parts of the conversation. But that's because these people started to get to know me, and I started to get to know them. I developed relationships and communications with people that I had not had access to before my advocacy. And so once you develop a relationship, it's much easier, and you get a little bit more grace because they know you. They know your heart. They know where you're coming from. So if you're going to do laser beam advocacy, stay on topic. The trolls will try to drag you under the bridge. Don't go. People will assume things about you. Let them. They will think that they know every topic of your political sphere because of one thing, because of how you feel about one topic. Let them. It doesn't matter. Everything you do or say will be used against you in the court of public opinion. Everything. So you need to be very careful, and you need to be very mindful of your audience and what they're expecting from you and what they can at that time receive from you. We all have heard that people don't care what you know until they know that you care. We have to do that as Second Amendment advocates. Part of the messaging needs to be emotional. The anti-rights, anti-gun side thinks that they have a premium on emotions. I don't know of anything more emotional than somebody telling you that you should not have the right to defend yourself with equal or greater force if you are being attacked. That is emotional. We could beat them in emotion every day, all day long, if we wanted to do that. It's our life. This is who we are. This is what we believe. But even more than that, if that is removed from us, we will no longer have the ability to speak out. We will no longer have the ability to live. The other thing is that you need to be empathetic. And I know that that's kind of a dirty word these days, but you really do. You have to understand where your audience is, and you have to meet them where they are and then walk them, sometimes very slowly and sometimes a few steps back and then forward a few more. But you have to walk them where you want them to go. The last thing is you have to be educational. You can't just hear from the other side and instantly be confrontational. That's who we are as people. We're all individuals. We're all liberty-minded, and we have to really put ourselves in check to not allow the confrontation to take over and to instead allow education to. We have to craft a message that causes people to think about things in a different point of view. Ask questions that they have to answer so that they have to think through their answer. We also have to think about diversity, not just everybody looks different or people are from different parts of the country or outside of the country, but we have to think about thought diversity. You don't want to ostracize your audience by calling them names. We have a very bad habit with that. In the Second Amendment community, we also have a bad habit with friendly fire. You don't want to give the enemy ammunition to use against you. If you feel the need to go on a social media post about something and be the smartest guy in the room, pretty soon you're going to find out that you're the only guy in the room. Everybody else has left the room. I talk a lot. Each and every one of us has experiences and insights that the person sitting next to you does not have. That is our strength. That's how we reach more people. We are all engaged in this conference for two reasons. We want our advocacy to be powerful and purposeful. It is up to us to reach people who are not part of the conversation yet and strike up that conversation. We are individuals advocating for individual liberty. Find your why and your audience and work with your allies. Although our liberty and our voice is individual, it is our collective alliance to defend that liberty which makes us strong. Yes, ma'am. See? Cool Kids Club.
Audio check.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
We have no house on any second.
It was awesome. It was awesome. We're going to do a quick sound check in the room, and then we're going to move on to our next speaker. Paul is... He intended it to be when it was in my hand. Let's just be honest.
Audio test. Nope.
He's not lying.
Check. Test 1, 2.
This one's on also. Are we good? All right. Fantastic. So we've been learning a bunch of stuff. We do a lot of work. Why don't we find out how maybe we can make a little bit of money at what we do? Well, our next speaker is Chris Dover, and he is a semi-retired entrepreneur. He is Chris, a Clover or Clover Tack. He's a YouTuber, a podcaster, a writer, a social media influencer, and more through various projects with Clover Tack Productions, a Texas-based pro-firearms media company. Since 2017, he has used his tech knowledge and education along with his network of tech industry contacts in order to help other creators, specifically gun tubers, to navigate the online world of websites, platforms, and social media. Clever. I give you Chris Dover.
Thank you, Miss Cheryl. And hello, AmCon. Here we go. See if Paul's got us hooked up. He does. So my name's Chris, and background, as Miss Cheryl said, in the IT world, strange bedfellows, also youth shooting sports instructor. So, yeah, with that, most of you that know me from the Clover Tack YouTube channel, typical gun tuber stuff. I have enjoyed helping other creators for the last several years, and so I kind of spun off a project to get it off of that GunTuber style channel called GunTuber Academy. Apologies for the screen there, but anyway, check that out. If you got questions as we move forward, also do podcasts, also do writing for gear-report.com, and think you'd have to ask Charlie about this, but I think I'm the shortest episode ever of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Not sure. So, yeah, we're talking money, and when we talk money, we're going to talk the bombs. We've heard about all of that, and that's Bloomberg's money, right, behind all of that. I've heard it said that, what if we had somebody like Bloomberg? Well, here's a novel idea. We got thousands and thousands of people that attend rallies. What if we got all of them to get behind Charlie or Big Tony or Chris up there or anybody else? What if there was a way to do that? You know what? There is. It's called Patreon. So, here's your crash course for Patreon. Remember, as we burn through this, I'm going to cover a lot of ground. Hit me up after the thing here. If you're watching this online, of course, hit us up on GunTuber Academy. Email me. Get with me on social media, and we'll try to get you taken care of. So the first question is, what is Patreon? And if you ask 100 people, 99 are going to tell you it's all about the money. It's fan funding. It's money. And you know what? They're not wrong. That bottom number is $1 million a month changes hands on Patreon. $1 million, I'll say it again, dollars a month. But here's the thing. There's 200,000 creators on Patreon, and there's 6 million users currently. So what if I told you Patreon is a platform? So as we move forward, don't forget the funding aspect. That's important for our projects and our channels and our other things. But don't forget, Patreon is a platform. So I'm going to answer a few questions here that I normally get, or cover a couple of topics. The first is, I went past it, when should I start Patreon? The answer to that is yesterday. And there's several reasons why. First of all, it's easy. You get on the internet. We all do that. You type in some stuff, you hit a couple of buttons, and guess what? You've set up a Patreon account. It's easy. And plus, you got help, like me. Or just about anybody else in this room that already has a patron like Charlie. The other thing is, whether you got 1 follower or whatever, or 10, somebody out there is wanting you to take their money. They're wanting to support you. If you don't have a mechanism in play to do that, what are they going to do? Who are they going to give it to? And third, the quicker you get started, just like anything else, the more practice you're going to get before you get those hundreds or hopefully thousands or hundreds of thousands of supporters out there. The next question that I get, or topic rather, is I'm nervous about promoting my Patreon. We all suffer from it. We feel like we're e-begging, right? We feel like we're asking people for money. Let it go. Let it go. Patreon has been around since 2013. Talked about it before. There's 6 million users on the platform. $1 million a month changes hands. If people don't know Patreon is a thing by now, and they're not okay with it for us to fund our channels and our projects, you know what? That's on them. I put out a public poll. 89% said that they do not have a problem with somebody that promotes their Patreon. 89%. And that's a public poll. Now, there is 11% up there, and you know what? Haters are going to hate. It's going to happen. The people that hate you, probably not going to support you anyway. So who cares? The thing is, some of those 11% did leave some feedback on that poll. And they said the way that you promote sort of affects their feelings on that subject. So let's talk real quick about a few ways that you can promote passively without causing yourself too much trouble. Now, it's hard to see on this, but in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you would see a watermark that said patreon.com/Clovertac. You can use watermarks on your videos, your images. Drop that in social media banners, several different places. Comments there. But when you drop a link in a comment, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, or description, be it YouTube, be it Instagram, spice it up. Don't just drop the link there. Let people know what that link is. Let people know what they can expect. And one of the most important things when we talk about, well, if I'm asking people for money, you know, the thing is, I probably should be supporting other people. I probably should be practicing what I preach. I know that's a big personal thing for me. I don't want to be hypocritical. And if I'm putting out there that, hey, I'd like you to come on board as a patron over on Patreon, you know what? I'm going to support some other people. And I do that with 25 different people a month. I throw a buck their way just to help out. Not only does that help with my coping with that hypocrisy, but it also helps strengthen the community and broaden the base. Now, Patreon is like a first date. You got to make a good first impression, right, with anything. That's going to be your homepage on Patreon. So let's talk about that real quick. Like I said, easy to set up. You're going to go over there. You're going to click around. You'll get the option to set this page up. It's important that you add quite a few things, because when the public hits that page, before they support you and they're a patron, they're going to view it publicly. You want to make sure your mission statement's there and it's clear. The what and the why. You've got the option to put up a trailer video. You've got an option to put up pictures on your projects, your social media links so they can follow you in other places. And if you do content, podcasting, whatever it might be, on a regular basis, put that schedule up there, front and center in public. And then even if they don't become a patron, maybe you get a follower somewhere else. Maybe they eventually see you doing something that sways them to become a patron, and they remember you're there. So I said Patreon offers the public option to come in. And then once they come in, if they like what you do, they can kind of become a member. They can support you. Patreon calls that membership tiers. With membership tiers, be mindful when you set those up of who your supporters are likely going to be, who your followers are likely going to be. Is it going to run the gamut? It's going to be mostly blue collar. Is it going to be most white collar? Is it going to be companies or corporations potentially that you're going to promote to and push to maybe support you? Be mindful of that and set the monetary level of those tiers up in a way where it's conducive to that particular audience. On average, content creator, gun tuber, whatever you want to call it, makes about $4 a patron on Patreon. Some of you folks out there with the nonprofits and stuff like that, $10, maybe even more. Depending on your project, depending on what worth people find in that project. Your project, the sky's the limit. Now, they take their cut. Unfortunately, everybody's going to. I love YouTube, not knocking on YouTube. Love the platform, but good gravy. They take 30%. Whether that's ad revenue, whether that's super chats, whether that's a membership, whether that's whatever. Patreon, they only take 10. Talked earlier about the different levels. Here are some of my levels. Mine run essentially from $1 all the way up to $100 a month, again, to take care of those corporate levels. When you set these levels up on your Patreon, or your Patreon, I should say, you can see mine. Got the Lucky Charms looking thing, the leprechaun. They're all in kind of a shooting sports theme. They're named that way. Make sure your project, your organization, make sure that your levels they look pretty and they resonate with those people. It entices them to pick that level. I've got people that join the sharpshooter level just because it says sharpshooter. Did another poll, speaking of those levels. And 77% said that they support people on Patreon expecting nothing in return. They do it simply to support that project, that creator, that organization. Now that leaves 23%. And let's face it, if you've got 1,000 or 10,000 patrons and you lose 23%, that's going to be significant, right? So, what can you do to offer perks for that 23%, to maybe entice them, to maybe help keep them on board? There's several things you can do. You can do swag. Swag is an obvious thing. Stickers are easy and cheap. Patches, not so much. Dog tags, challenge coins, caps, not so much. All that stuff has to be shipped, has to be managed. But you can do special live streams. You can put credits to your patrons in your videos. All of that's free, and all that is engaging with your support, with your audience over on Patreon. So let's talk about that engagement. There's several ways you can engage with your audience on Patreon. Several different types of posts. Now keep in mind, any and all of the posts that we're talking about here, you can post straight out to the public, you can post to just your patrons, or you can post to a specific tier. Let's say you have that corporate tier and you just want to post some behind the scenes or something special you're doing with maybe the donations from that specific tier. Everything is tailored and geared. You have complete control on who sees those posts, no matter what it is: text, image, video, live stream, audio link, or a poll. But I want to hit on a couple, like videos. If you do video content, Patreon, one of the greatest perks you can do, it costs you nothing. You cut your video, you've uploaded it, you're going to release it next week. Lord willing, you're on a decent schedule like that. Drop it early over on Patreon. Drop it for them early. Not a big deal. If you've got Instagram pics, you can do the same thing if you're an Instagrammer. Drop those pics early over to Patreon. Now, we talked about polls. We went through 2 so far. This is a Patreon poll. These are absolutely amazing and vital, and here's the reason. I call my patrons my executive committee, my board of directors, my shareholders. That's what I call them. When I put a poll out, I'm not putting it out to the general public like those 2 before. It's going out to people that support me. It goes to people that are giving me their hard-earned dollars every month. So you know what? I'm going to get some valuable data and feedback no matter what question I ask them I'm going to get it, and I can trust that it's genuine feedback. Now, speaking of that data and feedback, so another thing about Patreon that it offers is the third grader in me wants to laugh, but it has a robust back end. This is what they call the relationship manager. So with this, and yes, all of the emails I blurred out, that way I didn't give that personal information away. But with the relationship manager, I'm able to see all of my current patrons. I'm able to see all of my past patrons. I'm able to see ones that are swapped levels, all kinds of data in this relationship manager. Now, another cool thing about this relationship manager, if you've got the slightest bit of editing experience, you can export any of the data in this to an Excel file, and then you can import that into your editor in a roll credits scene. So it helps with that too. One of the things under patron management is exit surveys. If you've got somebody that leaves you, they have the option of filling out a survey. This could be interesting. Now, over the last couple of years with what has gone on, most of it is my financial situation has changed. And I would venture to guess that the majority of lost patrons you have, it's going to be the same. Finally is the analytic data, the hard data with numbers. How many people viewed a post, how many people commented, how many people reacted, how many patrons you gained, how many you lost, how many upgraded their support, so forth and so on. So finally, we'll talk about a frustrating thing, which is policy. I know every platform has their policies. There's a lot of gripes going around about this and that and whether they have the right to do it. Read Patreon policy. If you need help understanding it or you want my opinion on it, I'm here. But definitely read the policy of the platforms that you're operating on. Two areas that I want to talk about real quick. Patreon does not like giveaways. They define a giveaway as giving something away in a random fashion. Right? I'm going to pick a random comment. I'm going to pick a name out of a hat. That sort of thing. As contests, not as giveaways. So just be mindful of that. Second thing, just because of the space we're in, is links. Links to firearm-related stuff, specifically when we're talking things that are regulated from a state and federal level. So potentially magazines, obviously on a state level, firearms and ammunition, federal level. You post that, doesn't matter if it's a link to the manufacturer or link to affiliate. That's a problem area on Patreon. So, what did we learn? Well, we learned it's easy. We learned you can engage with your supporters. Why? Because it's a platform. And we learned you can fund your projects. Now, if you've got questions moving forward, anybody live here, pick up a business card. It has my number, and call me maybe, right? So with that, if we've got questions, I'll try to answer some questions now. But I will say this, a lot of Patreon, it really deals the way you're going to set it up, the way you're going to work it. It all hinges on what your organization is, what your project is. So general questions are okay, but if you get specific, then it might require one-on-one consult. Common complaint is they're a communist, but they're communist. The question there was there a common complaint about Patreon? I get this with all platforms online, that they're communist, right? Because they don't allow you, as I talked about, to post links to firearms, or they don't allow you to run what in many areas with the giveaways is considered a gambling operation or potentially organized crime. It crosses that line, right? So because there's a risk factor involved for them and they don't allow it, you hear that a lot. I can't think of any negatives. I'm sure there probably are a few negatives. I'm just not aware of any. Obviously, hate speech type stuff, stuff like the comments that they mentioned with the LGBT community, possibly, or bullying or something like that. Yeah, you're responsible for, because that's your channel, right? That's folks that follow you. That's folks that support you. So in a way, you're going to be responsible for curating that. Now, if you don't get me wrong, there's going to be an ample delay to get rid of stuff and self-correct, right? So Patreon is not going to come after you, and they're not going to go, oh, well, you've messed up. We see this is wrong. You're gone, right? There's going to be recourse. There's going to be time for you to correct that. So if you've got, let's say, somebody that comes in and somebody that donates, and then they post some, let's say, anti-Semitic garbage or whatever it might be, right? You're going to have the opportunity to remove that, right? If Patreon doesn't remove that for you first, which likely can happen. Oh, we still got 5 minutes. Miss Nikki. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. Wonderful. I did not cover that, but when we were looking at the relationship manager, that's where you would do it, in that section. Rob. Usually they give you like a week. Like I see up to a week, sometimes 3 days. You know, just kind of depends on what it is. But a lot of times they're going to get rid of that themselves, right? So it's going to depend on. Again, I said you could post. People can post publicly if you allow, right? So if you put a post and it's just your patrons, those are just the people that support you, right? So you have a little more responsibility since those are the people supporting you, right? Keep a better class of company, I guess. So with that, you're going to be a little more responsible. If it's just a public post, right, you throw something out there to everybody, odds are Patreon's going to delete that and take care of it themselves without ever even bothering you. But on the other, 3 days to a week.
Wow.
That was loud.
The voice of God. Some blog posts are on approval only, meaning you can comment all you want, but I have to approve it before it appears. Is
Correct.
that option available on Patreon?
No. Only that would be, you would want to set that up as a patron only, right? A supporter only. In that instance, you would make sure it wasn't public. Nikki. Yes. Yes. This 3 like.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. Miss Nikki asked, did Patreon have a strike system? And the answer to that is yes, and it's like most platforms. This is 3 strike you're out rule. Yeah, they do rescind. It's typically a 90-day, like in between the infractions.
Just to be clear for the people online what the question was that you were answering.
That was, was there a time frame?
Time frame for the strikes.
Was what she had asked. Correct.
Okay, one more question up
One
here.
more?
We're
Just one?
2 minutes.
Don't cause me to go over now. Come on, I'm doing good.
Well, we'll see. All right, so given the nature of the topics that we talk about in the Second Amendment community, could you go into a little bit more detail of what might get you booted off or get you strikes if, linking to gun-related content or firearm
So the
manufacturers?
only hang-up Patreon has, as far as a policy and as far as I've seen. Now here, let me back up, okay? Some of the gun tubers out there that claim that Patreon is communistic, blah blah blah, are posting affiliate links that they're making money off that lead to gun dealers. Classic Firearms, for example, is one of them, right? So they're trying to send their patrons. They're advertising those affiliate links, which they make money on, to their patrons, which ultimately is leading that patron to purchase a firearm online, and that particular avenue of the firearm online, not accessories like scopes and things like that, right? The firearm itself is the issue. That's where, like I said, regulated items is where Patreon has their hang-up, right? So that's the number one thing. As far as you sharing Second Amendment stuff, as long as you stay away from anything that could be considered bullying or hate speech. There was a big channel that got in trouble not long ago. And I can't even think, I might could look it up and we could have a private conversation on it, because it wasn't in the Firearm 2A arena. But he got into some trouble on the platform, and it really borderlined the bullying and harassment policy on Patreon was what he violated. So, as long as you're just putting up your videos, talking about freedom, talking about the Second Amendment, and you're linking those, right? You're not putting those on Patreon. You're basically linking your content from other social media. Probably should have explained that a little better earlier, right? So if it's okay for those platforms, typically it's going to be okay for Patreon, if that more closely answers your question. Is that it?
That's it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Christopher Clovertack. I said it right. Check that out. All right, and we are coming into the home stretch, but finishing very, very strong. Coming up next, we have Jared Markle. He is the CEO of Full 30, the alternative mass media video platform. He built Student of the Gun. He founded Mastermind Media and Consulting. And Full 30's proprietary technology is service agnostic, meaning that it cannot be deplatformed and is available for producers to share their uncensored voice. Boy, isn't that a breath of fresh air? And without further ado, Jared Markle.
Thank you very much. If we're all friends here, you guys can move up a little bit if you want to. I would like to have you close. And I hear a good presentation. It's like a nice dress. It's short enough to cover the subject, but it's long enough to spark curiosity. I won't take much of your time today, but I hope to spark some curiosity. And maybe I should have even worn a nice dress. Today, I've got several months of pent-up excitement that I'm going to give you. I've not seen many of you in a couple years, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to be here with you right now. The feeling that I have, it's a vivid reminder of how I felt just a little over a decade ago. Come on a journey with me, and I'll help you see. Several years ago, I was walking out of a sticky, humid locker room. That clammy feeling, it was soon replaced by my excitement of the cheering fans. They were awaiting the main event. The walk to the cage, it had been short before, but now it had morphed into a long journey. And the emotional anvils that were stacked on my shoulders made my feet grow heavier and heavier. And the butterflies, they were in my stomach. They threatened to burst out of my mouth. And my courage, it clashed with the growing fear and doubt. The excitement of the hometown crowd, it weighed heavy on me as they chanted for my opponent. They were trying to muffle my confidence, and they were trying to muffle my courage, and they were trying to muffle my resolve. I was not just fighting one unknown foe. I was fighting the entire arena. They all had it out for me. And as I entered the cage, the scream of the crowd, it faded into the background. And they were replaced by the cage doors slamming, like the rusty jail bars on the condemned. And somehow, through the muffled sound of the adrenaline-induced ringing in my ears. I heard the announcement that my opponent was from Lubbock, Texas. Where the hell is Lubbock? I thought. The loud metallic ring of the bell sounded. And there was no going back now. I had committed myself. And I trained hard for this. But I knew that this was going to be the fight of my life. I remember the euphoria I had that night, just like it was yesterday. And today, more than a decade later, I've got that same excitement for the coming fight. We content creators are fighters. And we're fighters because we fight for freedom of speech, we fight for freedom of commerce, and we fight for freedom of assembly. It's amazing to be here speaking to all of you today. And I sincerely thank every one of you for the opportunity. You don't have to be sitting here right now, but you are. I appreciate it. And I know many of you out there, but for those of you that I've not yet had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Jared Markle. And like you, I've lived and breathed filming, editing, producing content, and discussing the ideas that celebrate freedom, the freedoms that we as Americans love. And like you, I've been frustrated with the massive gaps of social media, the services that all of our businesses rely upon today. There's a solution out there in the making. I just know it. I know there is. But it cannot be built by just one of us. Several years ago, I was new to Utah. I was sitting in an office drinking a quality beverage with a man many of you know, Jeff Kirkham. And those of you that know Jeff, you know that he adamantly believes a rising tide that raises all ships. Jeff tends to take this to the extreme. I know numerous companies that he's helped lift up, even though they were in direct competition to one or more of his businesses. And that is so non-typical in the world of business. But anyway, at the time, I just recently met Jeff in person, and we immediately hit it off. Out of the several things that we talked about those many years ago, 3 of them, they stuck with me. Censorship, oppression, and demonetization. And years ago, to be honest with you, it was difficult and maybe even impossible for me to really believe that in the 21st century, and in America of all places, that anyone's voice would be censored and they would be the victims of suppression. And how would we be demonetized anyway? Really? How would our funding be pulled from us? And my initial thought was that Jeff's life as a Green Beret, maybe it had made him a bit paranoid. But as we've all experienced, the world turns. And what was previously considered a conspiracy theory, it's become commonplace. Even to the point that big tech, whoever that is, they no longer deny censorship. They actually celebrate it. And they brag about it. The censorship, it's their censorship. It's what they want to see. And it's what they want to hear. Just this week, like 2 days ago, new misinformation policies were announced. Not sure if you guys have seen that. And this community here, we do it because we want to share our voices. We want to share our ideas. But even that's being ripped away from us, one by one. And we're the only ones that can stop it. We're all of us, we're all in the cage together now. Censorship, suppression, and demonetization. It's the onslaught of punches and kicks. And just like the cage bell, a signal at the beginning of my fight, our muffled voices, it signals the importance of our fight. We've all been dealt a blow of being silenced. Raise your hand here if you've felt it yourself. I know I have, multiple different ways. Our founding fathers, they understood that freedom of expression leads to progress, unity leads to strength, and inspiration leads to motivation. And what better way to motivate a free society than to ensure that people's voices actually matter? And they learn from the brightest minds in history. Cicero, Aristotle, Plato. Think about it. Plato's Republic, it was written and published in 375 BC. It's insane. 17. It was so inspiring, that work. The Republic was so inspiring that 17 centuries later, 17 centuries, our founders, they used those insights to create the greatest document and the greatest nation that this world has ever known. And at its heart is freedom of speech. The United States, it's a perfect example of what's possible when freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, and freedom of commerce all exist. In our situation today, it reminds me of another cage fight. I had just taken a blow to the face. It was a damaging blow. It split my right eyebrow like a ripe tomato. Though the adrenaline pumping through my veins, it made me see that in slow motion. And the first thought that I had, it was, oh no. Oh, my wife and my mom, they're watching this. How could I do this to them? But the red image, it was quickly replaced by the faces of the support team that made this entire event possible. The whole thing, not just me, the individual fighter, facing my opponent, facing my foe. I love and cherish the fight. And I love and cherish the people that made it happen. And I love the feeling of adrenaline pumping through my veins. It's amazing, the litany of thoughts that can run through your head in a few short moments while your adrenaline's pumping and your face is being smashed. I had thoughts of my corner. I had thoughts of my team. And I had thoughts of the entire production. None of it would have been possible without every single piece, every piece of the massive puzzle coming together as a unified community. Like I said before, we as content creators, we're the fighters. We are the ones in the arena. But just like the cage, we must band together as a unified community. Together we make the team. I've spoken to many of you on a personal level, and the goal at the time, while it may not have seemed like it, it was to figure out that the problems that we as content creators face. And you said the same things that Jeff said so long ago. We're being censored. We're being suppressed. And we're being demonetized. And to be honest, we're losing the ability to just share our own beliefs. And the reason that we're losing that is because they might be different than the person sitting next to us. I know how you feel, and I can certainly relate. I've dedicated almost my entire adult life to this. Student of the Gun started producing digital content for the interwebs in 2011. And it seems like so long ago. And since then, I've personally been involved in producing thousands of hours of content. Thousands. Some of it's been censored, suppressed, or demonetized in one way or another. Go figure. And in an attempt to slow the bleed, we spent countless hours trying to figure out the algorithm and understand the fact checkers and even understand the community guidelines. JP Sears knows how we feel. And I joined Full 30 to jump into your corner, the content creators' corner. Full 30 has been the corner for you, the fighters, and it's provided a platform where we can all share our uncensored voices without censorship or suppression. But that's not enough. And we all know that it cannot stop there. It can't stop there. We're still missing this, the final piece of this. A unified community. And we have proof. We've got proof what happens when we stand together and make our voices heard. Chipman, or lack thereof. Full 30 started by ensuring that we've got a self-sufficient platform to share our uncensored voices. And I'm sure that you've seen the massive changes that we've made just in the past year on full30.com. We've rebuilt this platform from the ground up with your feedback prioritized. That's just the first step, though. Full 30, it's but a shell of technology without you, our content creators. And what better way to show you that we care than to actually listen to the problems that you mention and develop solutions to those problems. Solving the problems, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take considerable time, money, and effort. It's already taken us years and millions of dollars. And that's because we refuse to partner with people that do not have the same values that we have. We refuse. We will not be taken over. We will not be taken over or taken down by big tech. Even so, my team's ready to huddle together with you and commit ourselves to providing a complete solution to all of these problems that we all face as soon as possible. And today, if you'll allow it, I want to use the time that we've got together to expand upon the plan that my team has already put in place. After all, it's your expertise. It's your voice. And this is your platform. In a moment, I'm going to open up the rest of the time that we have together for a mastermind session. And it's going to be followed by a short closing statement by me. Together, we're going to make this the gateway for freedom of speech, freedom of commerce, and freedom of assembly. Let's make Full30 your central location for the decentralized distribution of content. No censorship, no suppression, and no demonetization. All right, let's do it. Is there a marker up here? I see there's a whiteboard. What are we missing? What can Full30 do for you guys? What do we need to make possible? And if the answer is we've already done everything perfectly and there's nothing that we need to solve, that's even better. So we need, the problem that we're trying to solve is we do not currently accept podcasts and articles, correct? So, okay, yeah, that is, it's true. Right now it's a video platform. Okay. So can I ask you a question? If we had the capability for podcasts and articles, what would make you use our platform versus WordPress or the other things that you're using, or would you use it in addition to those? Okay. Sir. Yes. Full30, it's a video platform that allows you to share your uncensored voice. That's what it is right now as it sits. So you can upload videos to there. They're distributed. We actually have membership functionality, so you can do something similar to Patreon, where you hide some videos behind you have paid members so that you can produce. Yeah, paywall. You have paid members so you can produce. Very, very similar, yes. However, it's very different as well, because no censorship, no suppression, no demonetization. Yes. Yes. So we're focusing right now on creating a bridge between the content producer and the companies in the industry, right? So as a content producer, you probably don't want to actually go sell your own content. Maybe you do. Most people don't, from what I've heard, from the conversations that I've had. And so there's a solution there. There's a problem with the solution, that the solution would be connecting those two parties and kind of acting as the middleman in that case. Yes? 5 minutes. Did I answer your question? I don't know what it was like before that. Yep. Yep. Yeah, we have the solution right now for that. Yes. I already got you right. Go ahead. No, you make your money. You're doing the work. I mean, we're providing the technological platform, which is a lot of work and time and effort and money. But you're producing your content, and if you already have embedded ads that you've sold yourself, we're not going to take anything of that. Live is not up on full30.com right now. Is that of use to everybody in this room? Raise your hand if you use Live. Yeah, that's pretty much everybody in the room, which is what I suspect. Okay. Yes? Yeah, so we have, we've got the pre-roll ads that run right now, right? And the best way for you as a content producer to monetize at the moment is the memberships, driving your viewers to use the Patreon-like service, right? Because the CPM rev share gets kind of muddy, and we're still really figuring that out, how to make it work for the producer. Like, we don't want to have to make you wait on a handwritten check for $1 every 30 days. It's got to be automatically done, put in your bank account. Does that answer your question? What other way? Can I ask you something? Okay. Sir? There. Yeah. Yep. It's easy. All the friction's removed, right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. How much time do I have left?
1 minute and 34 seconds.
Okay, I need to do my closing. I'll get with
But
you
who's
directly
counting?
after. Okay. Please contact me with any questions after this. If we're here in person, that's great. If not, Jared at full30.com. Jared, Jarrad. You can also call me 801-618-0030. 801-618-0030. And I want to finish up with my closing statement. Your success is our success. The rising tide, it will raise all ships. And our commitment to you is that we're going to launch new and better ways for you to monetize your creative efforts. After all, you deserve to be compensated for the long hours, the sleepless nights, and all the family time that you've missed out on trying to be the best content producer that you can be. It is impossible to do this alone. But when we rally together, any challenge can be overcome. Thank you for your time, and God bless America.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. Great information. All right. We are going to close out with a comment, a statement by our founder, the half of the couple that dreamed up this whole idea of bringing us together to learn the tips, the techniques, the tools, and to network together to improve how we do all the various things that we do as citizen and professional journalists. So before I bring Paul up, just a reminder to everybody that if you'd like to break bread together, I know I'm going to be over in the restaurant about 5:45. I'm going to go change clothes, put on something comfy, and be over at the restaurant. It's Dutch treat. It's on your own, but it would be great to continue our conversations and have a meal together. And with that, Mr. Paul Lathrop, take us home.
Well, just a couple things here real quick. My beautiful wife, Susan, would really, really appreciate it. In your folders when you checked in, there is a feedback page. If you would please fill that out, simply because the only way we make this better, we make this, each year we try to make AMCON a little bit better. The only way we have to know how to do that is for you to give us feedback. We were going to a digital format for a while, but what was free is no longer free, and by no longer free we mean extremely expensive. And so in order to save the Second Amendment Foundation some money, believe me, they're spending a lot. I've had to sign for everything they've spent, and they've spent a lot of money on this. But to save them a little bit of money, we went back to paper. If you would please just do Susan a favor and fill that out with things like what you liked about this, what you didn't like, specifically the old bald guy, you know, that kept prattling on. You know, I'm sure he was annoying. Anyway. Yeah, and phone number. Remember, if you don't get the phone number with the name, I win the gun. So forget the phone number. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to let you go, guys, go. What time's tomorrow morning, Susan? She already escaped on me. I believe it is 8:30 in the morning that we're kicking everything off. Okay, so 8 a.m. we start sitting you down. 8:15 Amanda starts talking, and you want to be here for that. So 8 a.m. everybody, thank you for coming today. I hope you got something out of it. I did, even though I wasn't in here for all of it, and I couldn't pay attention to all of it. I had all this going on. Thank you again, and we'll see you tomorrow.